Welcome to the first edition of Liberty on Caffeine in 2021. I'm sure everybody has just been absolutely agog as how this year has started out, and we kind of anticipated and gave everybody a little glimpse of what was going to be coming up for this year. And part of it is because of two reasons. One, what has brought us to this particular episode that went on Wednesday? Well, for 2 years now, we have had politicians and the media who have been kind of egging on mob mentality and the violence and things that have gone on. And secondly, what nefarious things have been going on behind the scenes while all of this, this background stuff has been going on. Jeff and I are going to be talking about those things too. We're going to be bringing up some of the memes that have been on social media for a while. That's been on with this, and the whole key that we want to get out is we want a warning to go out to everyone is to what it means. All of this stuff means to our liberties and to our ability to attain wealth here in 2021 and going on. So without any more further ado, let's get started with today's show.
We want to get it on because we don't get along. We want to get it on because we don't get along.
What up? What up? Oh, yeah. Well, here I stand with the mic in my hand, and I will pray to the Lord. I'll do the best that I can. Cause in a world where possession is a question of a man's word, but we all are the same picture. So I'm sticking around and I'll be talking it down. I'll be kicking my sound just like a smoke. Never quit because it makes my belly grow. I'll be just me out of this one more time and I say, can you help me? Can you help me get the hell out of here? Can you help me? Can you help me get the hell out? One for the money and two for the show. Three to get ready to bust down your door. And it's a one for the money and two for the show. Three to get ready to bust down your door. And then the boom boom pack of my screws down so that I never ever quit. People hitting like a tap with the boom boom pack of my screws down so that I never ever quit. People hitting like a tap.
Well, Jeff, happy 2021. I know a lot of the people, our liberal friends, are going to be kind of disappointed that we're not going to be sitting here crying or all excited and, out of our sorts because of the big way the year has started. And I know some of our ultra conservative friends are not going to be real happy with us because we're not going to be enraged because of things are going on or just out of sorts because of things and wanting to start a war and so on and so forth. I know a lot of these people are going to be very disappointed in what we have to observe, say, and report today. But this is going to be fun. I mean, we knew that 2021 was going to be fun no matter how the election turned out for us. We've got a lot of things to discuss. And we have some people that may be interested in trying to have some solutions or get involved with trying to turn things around. So how's your 2021 starting out, my bearded friend?
Well, I had a very interesting start to 2021. I was trying to take a friend of mine to visit some of their friends, drop them off right before midnight. And I got in a hurry and didn't stop for gas and ran out. So I spent New Year's in a parking lot out of gas, and it went downhill from there for about the first 4 hours. But ever since then, it's been okay. So let's just hope that was the storm before the calm.
Oh, I hope so. Well, it's been kind of wild. We've talked a lot about some of the things that have happened just in the last week. I know it's a topic of discussion on everybody's social media. It's been blasted on all the TV networks and so on. And I just wanted to bring up this one screen share. Let me see here. Do that and bring up one that I thought was kind of interesting. That's going to start out with my theme was, see if that's the one. No, that's not it. Yeah, it is. Okay. This one is from our Alexandria Occasional Cortex. The whole point of protesting is to make people uncomfortable. Activists take the discomfort with the status quo and advocate for concrete policy changes. Popular support often starts with small and grows. Of course, misspellings and so small things in between. To folks who complain, protest demands make others uncomfortable. That's the point. Well, this is the kind of stuff that the mainstream media and politicians have been feeding us for 2 years. But then all of a sudden, the worm turned this Wednesday.
It did.
Well, give me your take of what went on, what led up to this, what went on Wednesday. It seemed to me that we discussed that getting into the Capitol on a regular day is difficult.
Yes.
And yet people were just walking in like tour groups last Wednesday during this protest.
It's more difficult to get into the Washington Monument on a daily basis than it was to enter the White House yesterday, but let alone the White House. So I had done some work for maintaining computers for some governments and visited federal buildings pre 9/11 and had to submit to x-rays, metal detectors, and every person entering did. So I don't see how 200 people, why is the White House open to the public like a regular tour day, knowing that there's going to be a big rally been announced for 2 weeks? That doesn't happen. They're more or less very much familiar with these things because this isn't the first time they've been done.
Right.
They knew what the results would be from their actions and still allowed it to go on.
Yeah. And of course, this is one of the favorite memes I've got up. You shared with me today, and it was kind of the feeling that people had with the jump in the votes that went through. I think that was a majority of the people that were out there protesting. They were not protesting because they were pro-Trump or anti-Biden. They were protesting more because they didn't trust the system, the operation, the voting process itself. Is that the feeling you got? But all these other protests, when they were burning down the cities, we had people from CNN and all these news outlets with microphones as private businesses were burning behind them, talking to these thugs actually, and interviewing them, saying, what has brought you to this, feeling, and what is the lowly things? What's the messages you want out? None of that was done this last weekend. None.
Yeah, the riots and looting and taking over entire city blocks in America over the past year was considered mostly peaceful protesting to the tune of $2 billion worth of damage. People who own property not being able to access it or have any rights. People renting properties and owning businesses in those areas that were taken over. Say Chaz was the name of it, I think, originally.
Yeah.
If I have an issue with government, then I'm going to redress government. I'm not going to attack private citizens and steal and harm other people and blame them for the actions of government. And that's basically what these liberals did all year.
Yeah.
And then they take issue with conservatives going to the White House to redress grievances to assemble and redress grievances with the government. So, one of them
doesn't really equate.
No, because they don't have an issue with government. Government's their
Right.
friend. That's their
Yeah.
savior and their answer. So
Yeah.
they can't go redress government because, then they would be biting off their own head, let's say.
Mhm. Yeah.
Government, liberals hate big greedy corporations. United States government, biggest corporation in the country, the largest employer, over $1 trillion budget every year, and goes over that budget and creates debt for everybody every year.
Yeah.
And you're going to tell me that's not the largest, greediest corporation in America, but they're not afraid of it because it's beneficial to them. It takes in money and doesn't create. It only spends, and its only authority is force. It's only under threat of loss of liberty and property the government has any authority over you. And these people think that that's okay, that we can't go redress our grievances against the tyranny that government is. Look, to even have government, you have to give up rights in exchange for the safety government provides. So from the very inception, government is tyranny. But it's a necessary evil to form a large society. We formed a large society because we have those basic rules that we follow. They throw the rules out and attack us. They don't go to the government and complain. So there's a huge difference in the philosophy and the belief system and the results that you're going to get from these two systems. But let me, if you don't mind, I'd like to just back up and give some basic, some background to the electoral process before we get any further into this.
Absolutely.
It is the only democratic part of the process. It is where we, the citizen, have direct influence over the government of the country. Once we elect those representatives, all of the choices and power goes to their hand. So when you have concerns about the honesty of an election or about election fraud existing, then the system is designed with checks and balances. Normally, this would go to courts to help determine the legality, illegality. That's the purpose of the Justice Department. The justice. So our justice system did not hear this case. So they left it up to the Congress to hear, and they didn't hear it. Okay, so you now have a breakdown in elections, a distrust in the election, and a breakdown in the checks and balances. The reason this was done is because if they had allowed this to go to court or through Congress, then these facts that would have been introduced could have been requested by the Freedom of Information Act, and the public would have had access to this information, which is what they don't want, neither courts nor Congress.
Good points. Good points. Yep,
so
you're absolutely right.
That's the basic foundation of the problem right now, is that government created it through ignoring the claims of fraud, the 400 plus sworn statements, the videos, the evidence, and the people will never know because they did this and they chose to do this.
Yeah. And you're right. And we look at and again, we look at the certain politicians who kind of egged this kind of behavior, mob behavior on, and trying to usher in what happened on Wednesday, so that they can have this. I mean, to me, it's a huge distraction to the main point of what's going on. I don't fear the mobs I didn't fear the mobs that were in the inner cities during the last 2 years. I didn't fear the mob that was in Washington on Wednesday. What I fear are the 4 politicians that we've got over here that promote this stuff, because what they're doing behind the scenes as they have these distractions going on in front. And And just we'll after we have our first break, we're going to go and
Right.
discuss a little bit about what was going on behind the scenes. But
There's also a secondary reason, which we've already discussed, for these quote distractions. And what you have to realize is that without vote integrity in the vote, that the people are completely excluded from the entire process, and that means that it's left all completely up to the politician.
right.
You're not going to get anything but what we're about to discuss in the future, because there is no fair elections from here on out. There's no trust in the system from here on out.
No, there really isn't. And as much as we've got people that are decrying about how awful it is that the Capitol got breached, to me it's just another building. We could have our Congress people voting in a Walmart and still have the same impact and same results. I'm not really that invested on the symbology of the actual structures and things like that. I think that they're beautiful buildings. I think they have great history to them. I think that they do have some reverence and respect that should be given to them, but to a limited amount.
Personally, I think that that's the design of opulent buildings to represent government is actually a representation of the problem with the government today.
Yeah.
I've always thought that, the churches should be the ones giving in the communities, should be some of the smaller buildings, and the governments should be only there to help people, to protect people from harming one another. And that doesn't take a lot of building or anything either.
No.
So, when I walk into an opulent church or an opulent government building, I think, geez, this isn't what's supposed to be.
No. And I have a lot of people that I have great reverence and respect for the flag. I don't think it should be disrespected, but I also see the reason why some people call it the sky cloth, because just because you have a banner, more flags and banners have more meaning than others. But recently we had somebody that was because they tore down and burned a BLM flag or something. They're trying to give it the same weight and reverence as the flag of the United States. Actually, even more than that.
Right.
And then,
truth of the matter is that flag isn't covered under any code or law.
No,
and it should not be. It was private property. Somebody obviously had it printed and purchased it, and it was destroyed. And that is a crime.
Absolutely.
But, if you want to look at it, then look at the thin blue line flag on every police officer's uniform. Okay? The flag code says that you cannot manipulate, change the colors, or that's desecration of our flag.
Sure.
Okay. Why do the police who swore an oath to uphold the Constitution and enforce the laws of the United States break the very laws they're supposed to enforce on their own uniforms?
That's, again, a great, valid point. And then, so once you have breached the rules, so to speak, then it seems like it's open season for everything else, which again leads us to what we talked about has gone on for the last 2 years, that people have been allowing this to happen when others have said, you know what, we have to clamp down on this. We have to enforce laws. We have to protect people, protect their property, and protect rights. But that was ignored because of a narrative that was going out.
If Congress was interested in upholding the law and protecting rights, then the 10 people who backed out of contesting the votes would not have backed out, because a few people in a hallway of a government building does not equate to reason to ignore the possible violation of law in another area.
Yeah.
Okay? Deal with the people who weren't supposed to be there through the legal system, and deal with the possible voter fraud through the legal system. But don't conflate somebody entering a building and being, quote, where they're not supposed to be with reason enough to ignore these other violations. And that's that's what these guys did. They had the nerve to stand up there in front of us, our government, that they're our employees. And tell us that the bosses scared them so bad they're not going to do their job.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we sit here and take it.
Well, that's what's kind of hilarious, and they expect us to take it. And along with that, they're going to be using these as excuses for them to carry on other abuses and restrictions to our liberties and to our ability to I guess to make a living, to do things.
Let's go back to the reason that neither the courts nor the Congress were forced to actually look into these things in the first place, and that's because they have nothing to fear from not doing it. Okay,
that's true.
Eternal vigilance is the price of liberty, and in order for us to have, we're dealing with something. The only authority they understand or have is force.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to have more force than they do, not to use, but just to have as a negotiating tool, a bargaining chip, and with the possibility of using if necessary.
True.
Then these guys can't ignore these things. They have two separate sets of laws right now. They violate the laws, they break, and nothing gets done to them.
Right.
And we have proof over the last 12 years of more than 30,000 emails being deleted after being subpoenaed, Wiener laptop, Chinese spies as drivers for 20 years for
false FISA warrants. Yeah.
None of that's covered.
No.
But when Snowden reveals that this stuff's going on that people don't even know about, all of a sudden he's the enemy.
Yeah, then it's treason. Yeah,
right.
And
so,
which is.
I hope that
all those other things seem more treasonous
by this government. I think that's a badge of honor right there with this government.
Yeah,
our founders were treasonous people.
Exactly. Well, let's. We've gone on for about 20 minutes. Let's take a short break here with a message, a PSA from Rain, and we're going to get back in the second half. We're going to be discussing a little bit about some of the stuff that's been going on behind the scenes. We'll be right back.
Every 2 minutes, an American is sexually assaulted. Be the someone who gives their time. Be the someone who lends an ear. Be the someone who takes a step. This is Christina Ricci with RAIN, asking you to join the fight against sexual violence and volunteer in your community. Log on to RAIN.org, that's RAINN.org, to learn how you can be the someone.
This message brought to you by the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network and this station.
All right. We're coming back for the second half of the show. We discussed in the first half, of course, the what kind of all the stuff that's kind of brought us to this, to what has happened this first week. And now we're going to discuss the things that were happening behind the scenes that aren't being addressed in the mass media. You can barely find it in social media. You really have to look at it. One of the things that's been brought to me is our 5. Excuse me, I got to use the hand that works. 5 HR rules that have been brought up. Bills. 121, 125, 127, and 130. I'm going to grab those and put them up on the screen here real quick. And here we go. And to me, this is incredible. I'm going to read this for some of the people that are just going to be listening to us audio with just audio. HR 121 to provide the hiring of 200 additional Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosive Agents and investigators to enforce gun laws. HR 125 to amend Title 18 United States Code to provide for a 7-day period. Now, this is nationally, a 7-day period before semi-automatic firearm, a silencer, armor-piercing ammunition, or a large capacity ammunition magazine may be transferred. Now, we're going to go back over each and every one of these to illustrate the insidious things that are buried into these. HR 127 to provide for the licensing of firearm and ammunition possession, licensing of ammunition possession, and the registration of firearms, and to prohibit the possession of a certain ammunition. HR 130 to require the safe storage of firearms and ammunition, and to require the investigation of reports of improper storage of firearms and ammunition. And then HR 167 to prohibit the transfer of a firearm at a gun show by a human being, person, or citizen who is not federally licensed firearms dealer. So these are, each and every one of these are things that have already had restrictions and so on for that are on the laws or laws on the books. But these are particular ones because the language makes it sound like they're reasonable. These are all things to go after people, get in their homes, and to have an excuse to get after them and to have additional bodies. Now we're going to start out with HR 121, the hiring of 200 additional ATF agents and investigators to enforce gun laws. Now, we need to reduce the size of government. This is going in the total opposite direction. And the ATF already is very, very large organization. Essentially, they're trying to build their army. What's your feeling about HR 121?
Again, do you mind if I start a little bit background?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
And to me, the Second Amendment is cannot be infringed, which means that they should not be able to limit our possession of weaponry in the first place. Now, people will say, well, what about machine guns? Well, in order for us to gain our independence, we actually had to have in our possession not only guns, but mortar and cannons and actual military equipment. And the reason that the Revolutionary War started in the first place was because England, the United Kingdom, was coming around confiscating our weapons and our equipment and taking away from us the ability to defend ourselves. Okay? I'm a peace-loving person. War is death.
Right.
If the world was at peace, then the entire world would be more prosperous. So I want to use the First Amendment first. But with the removal of the vote, the uncertainty that my vote matters, I'm not represented. And with the fact that we're punished when we exercise our First Amendment right to assemble and redress the government, means that our First Amendment no longer works. That, folks, is when the Second Amendment applies.
Right.
It's the last step, the last choice after all communications have failed. Well, the government just stopped all communications with the people. They're in fear of us. We're the problems now, and they're the victims.
Well,
so yeah,
I'm going to be talking
about 200 more agents to continuously violate our inalienable rights is the wrong move. Yes.
Yeah, which I'm going to jump down to the HR 130 because of the 200. This is HR 130 is the reason for HR 121, and that's they put these things out of step in order to confuse the American public too. HR 130 is the real reason they wanted HR 121. HR 130 is, of course, the requirement of safe storage of firearms and ammunition to require the investigation of reports of improper storage of firearms and ammunition. Where are they going to go to strictly to businesses? No. Are they going to go to public places because it's stored there? No. They're getting an excuse to knock down your door and get into your place. And who are these people that are going to be, quote, making these reports of improper storage. What kind of proof do they need to have? What's going to be? Those are things. Even if you look into 130, these are things that are very ambiguous, and it's because they want to keep it ambiguous.
Besides the FISA courts, I'm pretty sure that they will still need these standards that have been established by SCOTUS, that a unanimous report will not equate to reasonable or suspicion, but it will generate a call, and they can come up to your door and say that they have a right to search, and they can lie to you to gain access to your house. Worse than this is if they suspect that you're armed, then when they arrive, they're already going to be in fear for their life.
Mm-hmm.
So now you have officers who already fear the public showing up to take your guns without reason.
The alleged guns and alleged, yeah.
So this is really, really going to be another powder keg.
And we've seen how wonderful the FISA courts work with accuracy, checking out the reports that are presented to them and making those decisions. They have got a stellar background. Sorry. Oh, sorry. Can you hear me? Oh, okay. He'll be right back. But yeah, I was just, as you heard, what my report was on that. And the other thing too is that 125 sounds great too. 7-day waiting period. We already have waiting periods for getting just regular firearms. Here he is back right now. Let's look at the history of the limits, of the attempts to limit. It was maybe 20 years ago. I can't remember if it was in the first Bush administration or the second one that we had congressmen standing up saying, well, we don't have a right to limit the guns, so let's limit the ammunition. Yeah.
And then we have people saying that, because of there's a few people in this country who cause death in a manner that's worse than normal. We have a right to disarm anybody who we think might be possibly a problem at some point in time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you closed all of the mental health facilities and stuck all these people back out on the streets.
Yeah.
And now you're going to take our rights because there's mentally unstable people walking around not getting the care they need.
Yeah. Well,
it was ridiculous from one end to the other.
And what's kind of another thing that's kind of interesting timing, put it this way, is that the People's Party or the Communist Party of China put out a statement at the end of 2020 about their concern about Americans and American citizens being armed. Their concern about it, and then magically, the politicians that they paid off, I mean, let's call a spade, have gone behind our backs to develop these things that are coming up right now. And what's really sad too is that I have friends who are that are supposedly reasonable people that actually support this kind of crap.
Hong Kong, China and Hong Kong are a shining example of liberty and freedom in the world. Yeah. And what they want for us Americans should really be our priority if we want to maintain our liberty.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I had to do that.
Yeah.
That was sarcasm, folks, in case it didn't translate.
I know, some people might have missed that, but yeah, I get that. Well, and another thing, now that we've talked about what's going on overtly with our Second Amendment, which is to protect the First Amendment. We've always talked about that. Now, the First Amendment has been, it's insidious. It's gone on with this too. We have had more and more of the social media platforms deplatforming, getting rid of even the President of the United States. His social media has been shut down for absolutely no reason. I mean, there really isn't any concrete reason for them to have done that. Because he didn't condemn enough what went on Wednesday. That's bullshit. I mean, that's ridiculous. Then I hear some other crap that they put out, but that's ridiculous. But he's got an option. He can get on to Parlay and some of these other things that are out there. But they've also done some interesting things too. These other apps that don't go along with how the mainstream media and some of the progressive thinkers, have their companies run. are not getting their apps. I guess Apple Store and Google has taken things like Parler out of their stores.
Let's be accurate. I think Apple Store is considering removing it, but it's still available today. But Google has removed it from Play Store, the Parler application.
Yeah, and but I've heard reports that you can go to Apple, but it has an old link that doesn't download the app properly, so you still have to go to the third party. I'm not quite sure exactly how that's running.
Quite possible.
Yeah.
And folks, rather than going to a third party site for an application, even though I trust Parler's the third party I have difficulty trusting, you can just go to it just open a web browser and go to it at the .com. That's all.
They have, I mean, there are so many things that are coming out now, and that's the beauty that we might be losing with the free market capitalist system, is that we have alternatives that come up when our preferences are gone. Then we have other things that might suit our preferences that pop up. If you have a centralized system, they stop the preferences because they control those things, and that's what these people are looking for, is a Marxist type of stoppage. Now, along with that, they've also been working in Congress to put together some legislation on things that you can post publicly and in social medias that's supposed to go broad across all spectrums. They want to do something that's similar in this country to the language regulations that they've had up in our neighbors to the north in Canada, which has been a nightmare for those people, quite frankly. Having people give you permission to use certain words to describe them, and if you don't use those, you can be arrested. That's ridiculous. But this isn't exactly what we're looking for, just to be clear. But there is legislation that's going to be trying to use certain words, certain images, all these other things that they're trying to legislate to be able to
I've got one better than that.
Express. Go ahead.
I've got a better one than that. They had a new Green Deal introduced to Congress by Occasional Cortex.
Yes.
A few years ago. So bad that not even she voted for it, nor any of the other people who helped create it. Well, that's now going to become law, guys. We are now going to have no gasoline and no coal and no fossil fuels used by the year 2030. And all new construction is going to have zero emissions. All have to be green based. And this is a multi-trillion-dollar project. They don't have money for it.
No.
And the technology isn't advanced enough to implement. The great state of California, with all of its environmental controls, has brownouts, and that's what they're pushing on. I mean, this is just, these regulations that they're pushing through are insanity.
Yeah.
And they're not even constitutional. The Constitution's dead. The vote's dead. I mean, the First Amendment's dead. Our own senators are afraid of us being at the Capitol to redress grievances after they let people inside to get that close to them.
Right.
I mean, people would have never got inside on any other day, a regular day, much less where a rally's going on.
That's true.
There's nothing left to this society that has any morality's gone, folks. These people that we're electing are psychopaths and liars. They don't care. They haven't cared for over 150 years. Look, Woodrow Wilson is the worst president in history of the United States. He brought in the central bank, the fiat currency, the League of Nations, the Internal Revenue Service, taxation in perpetuity, all of those were introduced as bills to Congress by Republicans.
Yeah.
That's 150 years that these people have been doing this to us. Over 150 years. And,
we talk about, they talk about accelerationists, and the accelerationists being the people that want to have, a revolution and anarchy and all these other things. Well, the people who are the accelerationists that we have to fear are not those folks. The accelerationists that we have in Congress that want to put together these Marxist programs that they have been slowly putting into our systems for the last few decades. They want to really push it through now. I think the call really came out. The person who really called for this acceleration was Barack Obama, in my opinion.
To me, Bernie Sanders was the litmus test for the ability to implement socialism at a greater speed. He was never intended to actually be a viable candidate with a chance of winning. And the fact that that they had not cheated, the Democrat Party had not cheated him out of the opportunity at that time. He may have actually been the president.
Yeah.
Was their cue to go ahead with the accelerated socialism. That was their cue that there was enough support for it from the training, the indoctrination in the school systems to create these groups that wander around and pillage and loot and cause $2 billion worth of damage.
Yeah. Well, yeah, these the Marxist groups that pose as something else, Antifa or anti-fascist, they're a fascist group that promotes Marxism. BLM.
What are they going to do? What are they going to do when they realize they just ushered in fascism in this country? That Antifa just ushered it in.
Exactly. Well, now that we've talked about all the problems and things like that, I'm going to come back. We're going to talk about what we're going to discuss next week with local government and a little bit about our solutions that we have. And I want to talk a little bit about the Libertarian Party and the Mises Caucus that I've become more involved in as of recently. You can see from our little banner and so on, the love revolution. When we're talking about revolution, we're not talking about burning down buildings and killing people. We're talking about a grassroots revolution politically. But with that, we're going to take a PSA break from St. Jude.
Braxton was diagnosed with choroid plexus carcinoma, a brain tumor. St. Jude is helping us put away our fears. We have an amazing team that fights for the best outcome for Braxton. He has the best chance here. I don't have to worry that how much is that bag of fluid going to cost me? Can I afford it to save my child's life? The donations, they're paying for me to live every day with my son, be stress-free, and enjoy every day with him. I wish there was a word bigger than thank you, more close to the heart, because thank you's not enough. They've given me hope. They've given me my son.
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
Well, I just wanted to start out this last bit that we're going to be talking about. There are a few people that I've been talking with that have been so upset about what's going on, and again, these are people who are involved in the duopoly, the two-party system. A lot of these are folks that are in the Republican Party, and then they now want to tear apart. They're upset with the people who stabbed Trump in the back and all these other things, and they want to create a third party. They want to create the Patriot Party. And my personal feeling is that that's not a solution. To start up another party, it would be great if they had if they do, it's a 10-year plan. And here's why I'm going to say that, because you have to get the organization put together. You have to get the funding of the organization. Then once you do that, you have to get people in each of the states, once you're organized, to put together petitions so they can have ballot access. Once they get the ballot access, which takes years a lot of times, state by state, to get these things so you can get your candidates up there, then you have to get committees to get candidates developed and get them working up. Putting together a party is something that it doesn't happen like that. It's something that it takes years to do. Now, people know that there are libertarians that are out here, because that's the third party. There are only three parties in this country that have ballot access in all 50 states. It's the Democrats, the Republicans, and the Libertarians. Now, the difference for us is that even though we've got the ballot access, we don't have access to some of these other things like the open debates and things like that, But these are things that we want to work on. But the Libertarian Party has been suffering also just on the same ailments that the other major parties have had. We've got a lot of people in there. We call them libsocs, that are the libertarian socialists that go after the libertarian ideals that have gone on from some of the socialist people over in Europe and have imported it here to the United States and inside our party. You and I have discussed that there are different flavors and of so on and so forth that people that go there, but they're not looking at the basics that we have of the free market capitalism that has been studied and shown through the Austrian School of Economics that I like to let people know about, and also the traditional basic constitutional ideals that have been brought through that are actual liberal ideas, liberal being in the time-sensitive variations that we've talked about, that is against big government. Yeah.
You and I did discuss this a little bit earlier before the show started. Yeah. And, one of the things that strikes me is that these people, they definitely believe in a lot of the founding principles, but they have just been manipulated. To me, they have all your conservatives, 99% of them are going to be fiscal conservative. They're also social conservative. And the issue is that they want to legislate morality. They're against gay marriage because a lot of them are Christian. Well, Christianity has free will. Okay. And if they don't harm anybody else, you have two consenting adults making a mutual contract. It's not the place of the government to tell them that they can't do that.
You're right.
So
Absolutely.
if you go back to the establishment of the Republican Party, and you read the platforms that were created, they will direct you back to the founding principles of the country, which is the forebearer or the prototype for the Libertarian Party.
Right.
So if you want limited government, freedom to practice your Christianity, and let other people practice their whatever they believe, without government telling you that you must accept their choices or deny their choices, then you want to be in the Libertarian Party. And those are the philosophy and the founding principles of the Republican Party. What you're witnessing today is the progression of the Republican Party away from founding principles.
Now, just to let people know, the head of the Libertarian Party, the chairman, Sarwark, had put together some real ridiculous things, statements, and he had them coming out on Twitter today, and things that a lot of us disagree with. And so I strongly suggest and would want people to look into the Mises Caucus. We've got you can just put it into your search browser in Facebook or anywhere. You can even get onto the regular Mises Caucus pages. If you want to know more about the philosophy, go to the Mises Institute. You can see some things that are there. The Revolution of Love continues, as you can see up here. That's part of the Mises Caucus. If you want to explore more about it or get involved in it, this is how we're trying to get these basic ideas and ideals back into the Libertarian Party. If you are someone who is a libertarian and walked away because of the craziness that was in the party, I urge you to take a second look at the Mises Caucus, get involved, and see if you can have a revolution from the inside, from the right way. If we can get a hold of the party, we can get a hold of candidates, we can get some things straightened out. I don't know if it's too late.
The Libertarian Party became home for a lot of the Tea Party members. The philosophy of Ron Paul and his supporters were all joined into the Libertarian Party. But since then, there has been an influx of both ANCAPs and ANCOMs, which is anarchists who
Yeah.
believe in capitalism or communism. But I don't know how you have
Libsocs,
communism
Libcons. Yeah.
without any kind of government, or even, who wants to live in the world's largest homeowners association, which is what anarcho-capitalism is. So the foundation is there. The principles are there. There's a lot of people there that share common enough beliefs from the Tea Party. But there's the other side that's in opposition, and we could really use the support of fiscal conservatives with liberal, social liberal, not progressive liberal, not socialism, but actual liberty-minded, freedom to live how you choose if you harm no one else or their property. And in exchange, you get the freedom to live how you choose if you harm no one else's property. That's a great deal, guys.
Yeah.
I don't think you get any more fair than that in politics today. So come join us. Help us out.
Please come join us, and go and check out our Porcupine Pundit website. See if you can help us out also. If we could be able to do this. We've really got to get this movement going. We want to do something. We don't want to just sit here on every Saturday and pontificate, whine, all these other things. We actually want to do some things, and that's what 2021 is going to be all about, is action. And I put up there about to act, not react. And unfortunately, some of these other things I think are just reactions. Oh, they're doing this, I'm going to do the absolute opposite, which is absolutely doing the same thing. It's just on a different side of the coin, as the somebody that you disagree with. Instead, take action. See if you can do it with love for the country, love for individuals, love for what we stand for, and do it the right way. And this is, in my opinion, the right way to do it. I hope
there's never been a more free country created. When this country came into existence, we were under the rule of monarchies. People were born into their power and inherited it. Your governors and the people who controlled your lives were born to do that, not based on any kind of merits or beliefs. Okay, we created. There was a two-class system. You were royalty. You had one set of laws. You weren't royalty. You were a completely different set of laws. And we brought that to an end here.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's what we're going to lose. We're going to go back to dictators if we continue the way we're doing now with these two-party system. It's that important. It is that important.
Very important. Another thing is, if people have lost their sense of our history, of the great things that we've done, the great things we still can do, and you just every once in a while want to get back and kind of get back into the bosom of great American greatness, go to Up With America. Up With America is a great organization. Our good friend Tom Herron is recovering nicely. He's had some medical problems. He'll be back on the air, but his website is up. If you just want to see what wonderful things, where we came from, where the foundation is, don't let people chip away at our foundations, and that's also something that's very important.
Education and eternal vigilance. Education is the key to liberty. Eternal vigilance is the price of liberty.
And wherever you are in this country, whatever your county is, your state, and your local government, be vigilant with them too, because that's where you live, and that's where a lot of these things really do come into fruition as being a problem. And next week's Jeff and I are in it. And I think no matter where you are in the country, you're going to want to tune in to see what Jeff and I and our take of some of the problems and the things we've saw that's going on here in our local community of Myrtle Beach. I've got my little Myrtle Beach Pelican hat on just to remind me that we're going to be discussing these things next week. Some of the things might really disturb and surprise you. The things that go on just even in a local government. When you watch what's going on here in Myrtle Beach, go ahead.
One of the things to understand is that a big thing in government recently, of course, morality hasn't applied for quite a while. And then you have legality left over. And, legal and moral aren't always the same thing.
True.
But what you get with the local government, especially here, is that they will create laws that are adverse to the Constitution or to the state laws or another body higher up in the hierarchy.
Mm-hmm.
But those laws don't get stricken from the books until they actually get challenged.
Yeah.
Okay. So the government is to the point these days to where they throw everything to the wall they can and hope that it sticks and it doesn't get challenged.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes. Well,
they can implement this mandate that says you have to wear a mask. And if they never write a ticket to take to court, then you can never challenge that mandate in court. It is a law, but it's not a law.
Yeah. Well, I want people, even when they watch this, maybe it'll trigger you in if you're out there in Missouri, Tennessee, in your community, to say, maybe I should look at my local government and see what's going on there. It's kind of turn over some rocks and really explore what's going on in the council chambers and what's going on behind closed doors with our councilmen. And this is what we've started doing here. Go ahead.
Take out a phone and record them and see how they react, because they should be transparency in government. SCOTUS has ruled we have a right to record our government officials on our dime.
Yeah.
So most of the time that you see, just a camera is enough to trigger your local government into poor behavior.
Yeah.
And as they say, when you don't want to answer their questions, I wonder what they have to hide, why they don't want us to have a camera and a record of their actions.
So
well, that's enough on a local level, just to give you an idea as to whether it's necessary to look deeper or not. It's real simple.
Another hope that I have is that things will open up for us a little bit here in the near future, that we won't have to do this remotely anymore, and we'll be able to start doing things in studio and be able to take phone calls, have other things. Get outside, meet with the public. If you are watching this, please give us a call, write us a letter, give us a tweet, whatever it is, and let us know what you think, what you'd like to see. Some of the things that you want to have us discuss, or if you just want to be on the show, just let us know, and we'll try to get you on. So, like we said, next week is going to be we're going to be turning our sights in on the local government. And please come and join us. If you're watching the rebroadcast of today's show, we've only had a couple of viewers on the live section of it. It's very difficult on a Saturday. Plus, we're restarting things up again. But if you're watching a rebroadcast, feel free to just give us a comment, give us a shout out. Text us, email us, call us, whatever you need to do. Just give us some feedback on what you think. Maybe we missed some points today. Maybe we weren't on target. We are very open to hearing everybody's opinions.
Just the topic of voter fraud and the way it was handled today can be covered until the next election, I believe, personally.
Yeah.
There's enough to it. There's enough garbage associated with it, and it's complex enough and involved enough to where we could spend the next at least week discussing it nonstop.
Well, we've been
take some time and investigate and learn the ins and outs. It's one of the things I try to do is make sure that I understand the other side as well as they do, if not better than they do, because that's the only way that you'll understand what you're against. And when you look at it that close, it's real frightening. It really is.
Well, Jeff and I are very happy that you allowed us to take an hour of your Saturday to join us at Liberty on Caffeine. Join us next week, like we said. And Jeff, we'll be talking this week, trying to get prepared. Everybody, have a great week. If you enjoy these podcasts, please press like, subscribe, and then share them with your friends. We would greatly appreciate any financial support you can give us. Go to porcupinepundit.com and become a patron or a supporter. You can also buy stuff from us at our Freedom Swag shop.